What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we are going to talk about my perspective and the data and the story, the narrative behind the illegal immigration, the border wall here in the state of Arizona, things to consider, things to know historically, and kind of try to get to the facts, but also talk about my experience with the community from Mexico and Latinos who are here, documented or undocumented, because I've met both. Uh, and so, anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this. If you're new to Living in Arizona, you can hit subscribe and you can check out any of our other videos that we talk about. So, first and foremost, in Washington, across the news, you know that there's a big controversy about building a border wall, and there's a big push to get that because some people think that's important. Me personally, I'm not going to interject my opinion on it, but I'm going to tell you my experience with Hispanics in the state of Arizona. Number one, I would say Hispanic culture, Hispanic people in general, I think are not getting the respect that's due. What I mean by that, okay? So what I'm saying is that they do a lot of work in our country, a lot of the work that people don't want to do, not just agricultural work, but construction, service jobs. A lot of these jobs people just don't want to do that are American citizens, and the people from south of the border, they come here and they do that work. And there is a demand for that labor force because the owners of the companies can stay profitable, sometimes extremely profitable because of that. But the problem is that because they hire these illegal immigrants for a lot better price than the going rates, they're only paying, say, $12 an hour. They don't have to pay someone $20 an hour because they're an American citizen. So that American citizen is left without a job. So a lot of people American citizens found themselves in competition with these migrants, these people who were undocumented migrants or even documented, and they just couldn't compete. And so the employers were hiring these people from south of the border to do the work that at half the price, sometimes even less than that. And that created a big problem inside our society, and people started complaining, and then they started saying that crime rates were up because of the immigration problem, and they said the gang activity in particular here in Arizona was a problem. And that led to this bill called Arizona SB 1070. So you might have heard about it, SB 1070. It was done in 2010. This is Governor Jan Brewer, who was the governor at the time, meeting with President Obama to discuss SB 1070. And basically, here it is. Is a 2010 legislative act in the U.S. state of Arizona. At the time passage in 2010 was the broadest and strictest illegal immigration measure passed in the United States. It has received international attention and spurred considerable controversy. U.S. federal law requires aliens older than 18 to possess proper identifications at all times. Violation of the requirement is a federal misdemeanor. This means that basically they were saying it could have been unconstitutional because basically if the cop might have had a hint of an idea that that person may be here illegally, they can card that person just right off the bat just because there's something. So they're saying that it was profiling. It's like you could be profiled if you were of Hispanic descent just because of a suspicion that you might be illegal. And so here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that not just because Hispanics are doing a lot of the work and they do an honorable job and they work hard, okay? You would have to be hard pressed. You'd have to be extreme right. I mean, we're talking way on the right to deny that Hispanics do a lot of hard work in America today. You would have to be basically living a lie and in denial about that fact. That is just a straight up fact. I mean, out here in Arizona, you look at all these construction sites, it doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees, there ain't a white boy on that site or any other race on that site that's doing the hard labor day in, day out like the people from south of the border. So what I'm saying is, yeah, sure, you've got these hard workers, that are American born, but we're talking about the majority of that workforce being from Mexico, consistently putting in the hard work day in, day out, grinding and getting very little respect and being looked down upon and being looked at as second-class citizens. And here's the problem. There's a demand for their labor. People are hiring them, but the whole time they're having to look over their back. They're having to look over their shoulder because La Migra is coming for them, immigration. Okay, and I don't think that's fair. And I think that I understand the idea behind why someone would say, if you come into the United States illegally, you're automatically coming in here breaking laws, and that's a problem. So what I'm saying is, if there's a demand for the labor, and we cannot deny that, okay, we need to make it to where immigrants can get processed, get their documentation so they can be here. It's good for them and good for the country. And this is what we're going to talk about. Why the legal immigration system is broken, a short list of the problems. So this is Cato at Liberty, Cato Institute, a far restrictive system overall. So one of the reasons we have this really strict immigration system is because of terrorism. We want to make sure that everyone who's coming here, we know that they're not here to be sleeper cells inside our country to try to undermine us, right? Subversion tactics, static immigration quotas on nationalities, and law micromanages immigration demographics. So they're like, okay, we're going to accept 55,000 people from Vietnam, 57,000 people from Somalia, so they do these quotas, right? Only a certain amount of people can come in. So because we're operating on quotas, it doesn't matter if our southern neighbor is, because we're operating on a quota. Once that quota is filled, no more applicants can come in, and I think that's a little bit silly, and I don't think that makes a lot of sense. You can see workers without college degrees only get 5,000 green cards. So most of these people who are crossing the border, they didn't go to an education system like you or I went to. So for them, they're not used to having to go through all these paperwork. To them, that's like, that's foreign. That doesn't even make sense. That's like something they don't even understand, and so they're not going to do it because it doesn't make sense. It's not, the system's not friendly enough. It's not that they're bad people. I mean, I've talked to many of these people. They're good people. They're honest. Sure, there's some bad apples in every bunch. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are some bad actors in the bunch that are maybe working for the cartels, and that happens, and I mean, it's each sub-demographic, each subculture is going to have its different behavior patterns and different things that make it more problematic. This article here on Cato Institute, and check it out and see all the things that make the Arizona immigration, or the American immigration process, so challenging. So what I'm basically saying here is, don't just blame the illegal immigrants, because that is only one half of the problem. And I think that at the end of the day, they really do get a bad rap, and I don't like how they're treated like second-class citizens. I do agree with the rule of law, though, but I'm saying we need to do a better job of bringing them into the rule of law, understanding the rule of law, and that, in turn, should create more law-abiding citizens and have more structure, right? That's what it's all about, is structured society. We live in a structured society, and that's healthy. It's just like when you bring structure to your child's life, structure to your life, you're going to live more prosperously. And I'm saying that we should extend the net to people who are going to come here as immigrants, and we should be, providing them with this guidance. It doesn't have to be such a burden. People think, oh, it's such a burden. Why should my taxpayers' dollars go to that? But at the end of the day, look at all the work they're doing in these communities, and all the work they really do, and how, they don't get enough credit, I don't think. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I've seen it firsthand. Here's another look. Who's crossing Arizona's border? Agents give inside look at illegal crossings. So who are these people who are really crossing the border? While most people agents arrest are related, the latest numbers also show a roughly 20% spike in the number of unaccompanied minors who have entered illegally in 2018. According to the press releases dating back to January 2018, at least 64 sex offenders were caught coming into the country illegally. Agents say in some cases, these convicted sex offenders will try to blend in and pretend to be relative of the child. So you can see that these bad actors inside of these immigrant groups are really shedding a terrible light on, they're wolves in sheep's clothing. So it's like, yes, you have some what has Americans so adamant about building the wall, is because they think that a large amount of criminals are coming from the south of the border and coming into the United States to do what it is that they do, and they can be more aggressive and more proactive because America has more stuff to do and benefit from in terms of criminal activity. At least that's what people think is why so many criminals want to come to the United States, because they got more stuff to exploit. Anyway, so moving right along here, you can see that if you just look at the immigrants in Arizona, you can see more than 1 in 8 Arizona residents is an immigrant, while nearly 1 in 5 is a native-born U.S. citizen with at least one immigrant parent. So the history of immigrants in America is, or in Arizona, is common, right? There's a lot of people are immigrants from the south of the border. We have a high Hispanic population in Phoenix and in Arizona, all across the state. In 2015, 914,000 immigrants, foreign-born individuals, comprised of 13.4% of the state's population. Arizona was home to 452,000 women, 413,000 men, and 48,000 children who were immigrants. The top countries of origin for immigrants were Mexico, 56% of the immigrants, Canada, 4.2%, India, 4%, Philippines, 2%, Vietnam, 2%. So this is why they say the southern border is why they want to build the wall, is in not the Canada border. So one reason, it would take a lot longer to build the border wall along Canada than it would to build the border wall down in Mexico. But the rationale and the logic behind it is why they want to build the wall, is because it's easier for quote unquote bad actors to get in through the southern border, because Mexico doesn't have as strict of laws as Canada. How do I know this? Because I've immigrated to Mexico, or I've traveled to Mexico, Mexico City, Puerto Vallarta, and I've gone to Canada. I can tell you right now, trying to get into Canada is very challenging. Mexico, it's just kind of like bing, 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 boom, you're in. And that doesn't even include the problem of the as farther south you go, the Guatemala-Mexico border and these other border, it's easier to also arrive on boat, even from Cuba or another place where it's not so easy to land on a boat undetected in America. So these are just logical. This is the logic behind the side that wants the wall. Okay, so in this discussion here, we're talking about, number one is, I think, illegal immigrants, we need to realize they're people too. Not all of them are bad actors. We need to figure out a solution to this, and not just say we're going to figure out a solution, but we need to realize there's a demand for their labor, and they also do contribute. And as they have kids, their kids begin to assimilate and become more American than they are Mexican, and then they become full-blown American assimilation, just like every other first or second generation immigration process, right? The people who advocate for the border wall and whatnot, they think that people from Mexico come here and they cling so much to Mexico, so they always say, well, if you love Mexico so much, why'd you come here? And so when Mexicans come here and they feel a part of America, they start to, they'll claim America. It's just when you're coming to a country that's automatically rejecting you, it's going to be really hard to assimilate, right? So I'm just saying that we need to stop looking at our southern neighbors as a problem, because they're not. We need to look at the immigration processing as a problem, because if there wasn't a demand for the labor, they wouldn't be coming here. Now what experience do I have with living in Hispanic communities? Well, a lot. When I lived in California, I lived in central San Joaquin Valley. I was in the military, but our base was in a farming district. All my neighbors were from Mexico, basically. And no problems whatsoever in 3 years. Okay, sure, problems can happen, but no, I didn't have any problems. I got along with everybody. I mean, it's not. It's being drummed up. It's being made into something that it's not. Sure, there's bad people. There's bad people in all pockets of the world, in America too. Where it's not like America is just this holy rolling nation with these. Like, if we just did away with all the immigrants, are people going to stop doing mass shootings and doing these things that they do? No, it's not going to happen. So we've got to realize, just because someone's immigrating here and they commit a crime doesn't mean the whole demographic is criminals. This is blanket generalizations. They're just irrational, not logical. Okay, so if we look at crime statistics, you could see in Phoenix, the 90s were really when we had the worst violent crimes. I mean, you could see the 90s were was like the real problem. And then even in 2000s, when more people came from the southern border, the crime data didn't suggest that crime went up. It actually went down. That's something to keep in mind. Okay. Now I'm not advocating for. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have law and order in the country, because I do believe that when you immigrate here, you should be coming with documentation, because I've traveled to many countries. There's not a single country on earth that I can go to without documents. If I go to Singapore, I need documents. If I go to China, they want my documents. If I go to Thailand, they want my documents. So, I mean, it's not just the United States who's saying, hey, you got to get some documents before you come here. It's that the United States is so damn hard to get into, but the demand for their labor is here. So this is the problem. You get it? And I would say we probably need more people, more immigrants in America. Immigrants are not the problem. This whole idea that immigrants are a problem, it's not the problem. I mean, immigration has been happening all across the world. There's not a single place on earth that was not conquered by one tribe or another. Heck, before the Europeans got here, Native Americans were conquering each other and taking land from each other. China, if you look at how China was formed, the Qin dynasty, that was all conquest. The Empire of Qin. I mean, these are all, it's the Mongolians. Genghis Khan, he was conquering from Mongolia all the way to Uzbekistan on down to Ankara, Turkey. I mean, all of history has been conquest. The Roman Empire is shrinking. If you look at any map of conquest. So the point is that immigration is not something new to this generation. It's just that this generation thinks they're special and that this is the first time we've dealt with immigration. But immigration is only going to continue to expand, especially as we enter more into a globalization type world where we have these trading economics where Brazil produces mangoes more efficiently than Montana. But Montana produces steers and red meat better than say some other place. So you got this comparative advantage economy where if you can produce cars, where China, America has the auto industry, we produce cars, and then China produces things that you would buy at Walmart. So there's a trade, right? But it's done through monetary exchange. So the point is that immigration and global community is real. Now, you can be a nationalist and also realize that global trade is occurring and not live in denial. So that's my point on it. It's a bit of a rant, but I tried to keep my political views out of it and just say, at the end of the day, I personally believe that there needs to be more respect given to Mexicans and people from Hispanic countries, because they're not just these bad people, but they're always, I feel like they're put down too much. And I'm not being snowflake-ish, okay? I'm not for the snowflake mentality, but I think that Hispanics do get a bad rap, and I don't think it's justified. That's it. So all I'm saying is that we need to look to our government to do a better job of realizing what's really going on, and we need to also make sure that we maintain law and order. And if it means that we need a wall, then we need a wall. But that's just going to, every airport you go into is going to have barriers. You ever gone to an airport? They have TSA. They're funneling you through entrances, right? That's what the point of the wall is to make it to where there's entrances. And one of the things even Trump said, he said, we're going to expect people to come here legally, but we're going to make a big open door for an entrance. What he's saying is that he's going to make it to where people can come here, but they're going to have to come here legally. We'll see if he holds his word to that, but that's what he did say. But he did say that we need to stop criminals from being able to just cross the border and run across the border. I mean, you can see that if you go to the Arizona map right here, the border, you can see how much of the countryside. I mean, I just zoomed into this is just walk across that right there. That's basically what it is. Now, granted, you're going to be in this desert here crossing for a long time. There's nothing there, but people are just jumping over this little fence or just walking across the desert in some cases. And they're saying we need a wall there because it's too easy for people to just walk across and become undocumented and be among our population. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Drop your comments below. And we'll see you guys next time.